Hi, welcome to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about using Depop to sell your handmade items and help you decide if it's worth it as a platform to try out. My name is Gabby. I'm an artist and a crocheter, and I've been selling my handmade crochet on Depop for a little under a year now, and I wanted to just let you know what I think of it and what I think some of the pros and cons are. On my channel I've just started again to do like crochet related videos, and I have some older videos that are more painting related, and I've decided to start making more videos again, probably going to be mostly about crochet and some stuff about art. I thought I'd make this video because I have watched a lot of videos on YouTube about Depop, giving advice and stuff, but most of them are for the side of resellers and people who kind of want to do it as a business, reselling stuff or selling their used clothes. But there wasn't too much advice about specifically using Depop to sell your handmade items. So I thought that I could give some of my advice about that because I sell my crochet on Depop. So what is Depop? Depop is an online selling platform for selling clothes, mainly. It's similar to like Poshmark or Vinted or even Mercari. As of 2022, I had 35 million users. 90% of those users are under the age of 26, and 70% of the app's downloads are from people living in the UK and the US. And this actually kind of surprised me. Etsy actually owns Depop now. They bought it in 2021 for $1.6 billion, which is kind of interesting because I'm going to talk about Etsy in this video too and compare it to Depop. Depop likes to encourage the idea of circular fashion, which means that, you know, instead of throwing away old clothes or buying new clothes, it's like passed on to other people, which supports the whole kind of sustainable fashion philosophy. It kind of combines thrifting with online shopping, and a lot of people use Depop either to sell like their clothes that they don't need anymore, and then there's a lot of people who also use Depop for as an actual business, so they'll like get stuff from thrift stores and then resell it on Depop. But there are quite a few people who sell their own handmade things on Depop, whether it's clothing. There's a lot of crocheters on Depop, stuff like jewelry, accessories. I've seen like those little polymer clay charms, that kind of art too. There isn't a limit to what exactly you can sell on Depop. It doesn't have to be clothes. They actually have categories for a lot of different things like books and whatever else, but it is primarily used for clothes. I started Depop to sell my crochet, but then I eventually started selling other stuff on there too, like some of the clothes that I didn't need anymore and also some vintage clothes I have. I'll talk a little bit more about that later as well. And as far as what's popular on Depop, since it's kind of a younger age group that's mainly using it, stuff that's like trendy with people in their 20s are popular. And vintage clothes is also popular. I wanted to talk a little bit about Depop versus Etsy. I've also used Etsy, so I'm going to talk about the difference of my experience with both platforms. Depop just feels a lot more casual than Etsy to sell on. It's easier to get your shop set up, and it's easier to list things. It takes less time. Etsy is kind of a process to get your shop set up, and filling out listings takes more work as well. They also charge, I think it's like between 10 and 20 cents per listing. I want to say it's 20, which is like not really a big deal, but it's still another thing. that makes it feel a little less casual. So Depop just feels like less of a hassle to use. And another thing that I kind of like about Depop versus Etsy is that Etsy kind of polices you more when it comes to how long it takes for you to mail something. So I think they will penalize you if you take more than, I think, like 3 to 5 days to mail something out. But with Depop, like Depop itself doesn't care how long it takes you to mail something. It's entirely up to you to communicate with your buyer. It's nice because on Etsy, if you were to be away for a while, you'd have to put your shop on vacation mode in case you made a sale, and supposedly that like kills your Etsy algorithm because people won't look at your shop as much. I think Depop also does have a vacation mode, but you don't really have to use it because as long as you let people know that you won't be able to ship out right away, Depop doesn't care. So it'll be fine as long as your customer is okay with it. And that also makes it great for doing custom orders if you want to do that, because you can take the time that you need to make the item, so even if you ship it out 2 weeks later, it won't matter as long as your customer understands what's going on. Now, all that aside, I had no sales on Etsy. I think it's been like a year and a half since I first made my Etsy store, and I actually still have it up. Just in case something happened to sell, I haven't like turned it off yet, but nothing ever happens on Etsy for me. I had my Etsy shop, I think basically for about a year before I started Depop, and I got 0 sales on Etsy. I don't really know what I did wrong, but I put the exact same items on Depop, same price, and they sold, and they didn't sell on Etsy. And on my analytics, like on Etsy, no one even really saw my page or my listings, so it just, for all the like process it took to set up Etsy, it didn't feel worth it at all. I might still use my Etsy shop for selling other things, like if I end up doing my own crochet patterns, which I have some plans for, or also maybe art prints. But I think it's kind of like relying on Etsy's algorithm to give you views is kind of a gamble, and it might be better to have an Etsy if you are like getting the sales from your social media or whatever and funneling them to Etsy versus relying on Etsy to show you to people. And on the other hand, with Depop, it was much easier to get seen on Depop, and I think part of the reason is that Etsy's kind of an oversaturated market at this point. I mean, it used to be only for handmade or vintage items, and now that's not really the case anymore. There's a bunch of print-on-demand stuff, or like stuff that's mass-produced. And besides that, there's just so many different categories on Etsy that on Depop, pretty much everyone on Depop is looking to buy clothes. So almost everyone who's using the app is basically a potential customer if you do sell clothes. I actually also have a Poshmark account, and I mainly did it to put my non-crochet stuff on, like some of the other clothes I have. And the culture of Poshmark is more like people in there care more about brand names and like new items, kind of like more popular brands and higher end brands do better on Poshmark. And you can post handmade stuff on there. So I've only sold like 3 things on Poshmark versus I've sold about 30 things on Depop so far. I've had Depop for a little bit longer. I thought I would post some of my crochet on Poshmark just to see what happened, and so far I haven't really gotten anything on there. I think someone like asked me about the size of one of the jeans where I added crochet patches, but besides that, like, there's basically been nothing. The stuff I've sold on there was like not crochet related, but it could be possible. I've seen some videos of people selling their handmade things on Poshmark, but I don't think it's like the most popular way to use that specific app. Now I'm going to talk about some of the pros and cons of Depop. And I'll start with some of the things that I like about it. Basically, the main thing I like about Depop is that it's easier to get exposure than other platforms. It actually has brought me customers that wouldn't have found me otherwise. The main place that I've been posting my crochet and art before was Instagram. For me personally, since I do fiber arts, most of the people who follow me are other fiber artists, which is great for the community and inspiration, and also would be useful if I start selling my own patterns. But those people aren't necessarily potential customers for my handmade products as much as other people are. The people who might want to buy my crochet might not even know they want to buy my crochet, and they might not specifically be looking up crochet on Instagram. But besides that, the Instagram algorithm and the app in general has just kind of gotten worse and worse lately. Everybody complains about how their reach has been throttled, like for the last couple of years at least now. I have just over 1,000 followers on my crochet account, and when I look at my analytics, even like my posts that are doing the best, it never goes over 300 for how many of my followers have seen the post. And it kind of just makes it feel like it's pointless to even have followers if they're not seeing it. I think I complained about this on my Instagram story a little while ago, and I got a bunch of responses of people saying the exact same thing. That even if they have 5 or 10,000 followers, only a few hundred ever actually see their posts. They've also ruined hashtags on Instagram. You know how you used to be able to search for a hashtag and then choose if you wanted to look at the top posts or the newest posts? Yeah, you can't do that anymore. There's no more looking at the newest posts on any hashtag unless it's a hashtag that has under 100 posts. Then I think you still can, but if it's a bigger one, Instagram forces you to only see the top posts, which is pretty much whatever they want you to see, I guess. So this makes it a lot harder for smaller accounts and new accounts to be discovered. You know, people who want to search for a specific niche or a specific art form and find new artists to follow, you can't really do that anymore. I feel like what this all boils down to is Instagram wanting to encourage people to buy ads to promote their pages. So they kind of make the app worse and less user-friendly so that you have to pay them to increase how well your page is doing. So yeah, I mean, it sucks, and I kind of hate Instagram. I like Instagram still. I like going on it and looking at stuff, and I like using it to promote my art, but I wish it was better. Maybe Pinterest and TikTok are also probably better places to start promoting your art if you are disappointed with Instagram, and I'm kind of trying out both of those too. But besides all that, that's something I liked about joining Depop, is that I found customers that wouldn't have found me on Instagram, which was the main way I was promoting myself before. And Depop is actually set up to kind of feel like Instagram. So people can leave likes on your posts on Depop, which lets you know which of your listings are something that's more popular. And you can also see if people have it in their bag, which is your cart on Depop. So that way you can actually tell that your listings are potentially something that people would want to buy, and that your page is getting seen. And like I said before, everyone on Depop is there to buy clothes. So it's a more targeted audience. Another good thing about Depop is that people leave reviews for you. I haven't actually bought anything on Depop before, but I know when I sell something, Depop encourages me to leave a review for the buyer, so I assume that they're also encouraged to leave a review for the seller. So you can have your review page with all the nice things people say about you, and that's nice. That helps. It's nice to see your customers' reaction to your pieces, and that they liked it, and especially if you hand make stuff. it just makes it feel so much more personal and nice. And I say this mainly because I've also sold a lot of stuff in some local shops. And for most of the sales, I don't even know who bought it, even though I put like my socials and contact and everything on my hang tags. Like most of the people who bought have like never contacted me again, so I don't know who bought it. Like I put a lot of work into the pieces, and it's weird that it's just out there in the world now, and I don't even know. It's like it's my child or something. But yeah, it's nice to like get a little note about how much somebody liked the thing you made, and it also, you know, shows other potential customers that you are a reputable source, obviously. On Depop, like I said before, trendy items are popular, so that can be a pro if like you make things that are kind of in vogue for people who are like in their 20s or younger. And that can mean a lot of different things. Like on Depop, they have a category for what style your thing is, and some of them are like boho, Y2K, streetwear, cottagecore, fairy, whimsy goth, regular goth, emo, coquette, those kind of things. Yeah, there's also like casual sportwear, athleisure wear. Lots of different styles are popular on Depop. And the other thing that's cool about Depop is that if you do make handmade items, you can do custom orders. So I started doing that. I have like 2 listings right now for custom shrug in 2 different styles I've done. And so you can just post an example of what it looks like and give all the info in the description, making sure people understand that it's a custom order. I'd like to say like I can make it any color, any size, any whatever fiber you like, and it'll be totally made the way you want it. Let them know how long it's going to take. Inside of the listing, I just put the quantity up to like multiples so that when someone buys it, the listing stays there. And yeah, that's something nice you can do if you do handmade items and you want to do them based on made to order versus making a bunch of stuff and hoping that someone will want to buy it. Now I'm going to talk about what I don't like about Depop. So, if you are selling things that you're trying to get like a higher price point for, it might be a little harder on Depop to find people who are willing to pay what your item is worth. And I think it also kind of depends like what style you're doing. Like there's some styles that people are more used to it being like fast fashion version, and then other stuff like some rare vintage items or like really cool handmade items, some people might want to pay more for it. So it really depends, but there is a lot of fast fashion sold on Depop. Like I see Shein all the time when I go in there. It's, I think, kind of the culture of people used to buying fast fashion. It kind of makes people value fashion and clothing less in general and not understand that it's like something that is worth spending money on, and it's worth like taking care of, and it's kind of like this mindset of disposable fashion. So when there's something that's handmade, high quality handmade items, some of those people might not really understand that it is worth what you are asking for it. And I see a lot of crochet, especially on Depop, where, in my opinion, the person who's selling it is not getting enough for their work. And crochet, like any handmade items, but from my experience, crochet takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of skill. Even if I price something at a price that seems expensive, like say a sweater for $200 or $300, it's still like I'm hardly making minimum wage, honestly. just from selling that sweater. So like people don't really get that. And I mean, I don't want to sound like a snob. I want everyone to have affordable, accessible, sustainable fashion. But yeah, I guess that's why I like to also try to educate people about slow fashion and why handmade is special. And by the way, like almost all clothes are handmade. So that's another thing that we kind of have this weird mentality about in our culture, I guess. Like the people who work for fast fashion companies are still working very hard to make those items and probably not getting paid enough. So it's all like this culture of undervaluing labor, I guess. But it's a whole different topic. So back to Depop. On Depop, people can send you offers on your items, and a lot of people lowball you all the time. Like, people will send you lowball offers, and you can counter them, so you can like come to an agreement, and that's fine. But a lot of people also just like send you an offer, and then if you accept it, they ghost you. So I wish that Depop would make offers binding, like I think eBay does, where if you accept their offer, it makes it so that they automatically buy it, because it's kind of silly, but it's fine. So I would just say, like, if you are selling your handmade items on Depop, you want to get stuff moving and you want to get customers and reviews, but don't go too low, and value your work. And I guess the way that you can kind of offset people lowballing you or not understanding your pricing is to just like have good branding and explain why your items are worth more money, because people spend money on all sorts of things, you know. Just because in their mind they think that clothes are not worth as much because they're used to buying Shein and like H&M or whatever. You can help them understand that your items are special. Like for me, all my crochet is done with high quality, basically mostly luxury yarn, and like natural fibers is my main thing. So I help people understand that like that's something that makes my clothes really nice. And the fact that it's totally customizable too for them. And yeah. One of the things that a lot of other videos about Depop tell you is that like the algorithm favors quantity. So the more stuff you post on your shop, the more likely that your stuff will get seen. Obviously, if you're selling handmade products, it's probably not possible for you to be pumping new stuff into your shop every single day. So that's one of the things that might make Depop a little bit different for handmade versus like resellers. But I don't think that's like a hard and fast rule. For example, when I first started posting on Depop, I have a lot of other stuff on there now, but when I first started, I only had like less than 10 items, and they were all my handmade crochet. So I wasn't like posting new stuff all the time, and I didn't have a lot of stuff in my shop, but I still made some sales. I sold these fingerless gloves I made, I think for like $30 or $35. And that was my first ever sale on Depop, so that was nice. So I think it's still okay to use Depop if you aren't like posting a bunch of stuff. On the other hand, now that I have this whole collection of like vintage clothes I'm trying to get all posted on there, so I try to post on more of a regular schedule. And even though I'm doing that, I'm not making consistent sales on Depop. I'm still like selling stuff, but it doesn't feel like having more stuff in my shop has necessarily helped my shop be more popular. But I don't know. I guess it could go both ways. So, I'll talk about what has worked for me on Depop specifically. These shrugs I made were probably my most popular listings on Depop. this one has 200 likes so far, both when I sold the original and now when I've reposted them as made to order listings. I've actually, this one I sold first and then I made this other one as a custom. So that style seems to be really popular. I think shrugs are just trendy right now, and crochet is trendy. I'll talk about my average selling point, or how much I usually get for my crochet. I think the most I've ever made on Depop for my crochet has been like $100 for this skirt. It was to a girl who I had already met in person, and she was already thinking about buying it. But these shrugs sold for like $80 and $90 also. It is definitely possible to get like a higher price point for your items. I have some stuff that I've listed for like over $100, and I don't think I've sold any for that much yet on Depop. But the other thing too is that I still sell my pieces in person, either at like pop-up events or shops, local shops. And I would say that still probably a little more than half of all my sales have been at these in-person events, shops, or custom orders for people I've met in person. But I've still made a decent amount of sales, I guess, for my crochet on Depop. Is it worth it, and should you use Depop to sell your handmade items? I would say if you don't have a platform yet for selling, or you've tried other ones like Etsy that haven't really taken off for you yet, you should definitely give Depop a try. Especially if you're just starting out and you want to find new customers for your pieces. Because I think that's kind of what Depop is the best for. I mean, there might be places that are better at that than Depop, but I haven't really found them yet, besides possibly Instagram. But as far as a selling platform that will find you customers, definitely Depop versus Etsy. If you're looking for like your first shop, you should try Depop instead of Etsy, especially if you're selling like clothing or accessories, in my opinion. But some people do have success with Etsy, so I don't know what the formula for that is. I think what I would like to do next is having my own website and being able to funnel like my customer base directly to my website from social media, I guess, would be a little better, because then you don't have to pay fees, and you'll have more of a culture, I guess, of your customers who already understand your brand and are like repeat customers. So I think if you have that established already, then your own website is really the way to go. That's what I want to do next, but I'll probably still keep Depop for a while just to kind of get like new people. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to say. I'll link my Instagram and my Depop if you want to check them out. And yeah, subscribe if you are interested in content about crochet and art. And I'm doing a series of videos about like advice for beginner crocheters too, if you wanted to check that out. Okay. Thanks for watching. Bye.